Hey everybody, it's Yusuf and Sophia for Dad's Free Time Game Reviews, where I review the games that I play when no one needs me. This time the game is Ultimate Spider-Man for PlayStation 2. Now in this game you alternate between Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, and Eddie Brock, who is Venom. Spoiler alert. Unlike most of the universes where Peter Parker and Eddie Brock are in the Daily Bugle, and then Peter Parker happens to find an alien symbiote suit that bonds to him, but then he finds out that something bad happens, splits from his alien symbiote, and then the symbiote finds Eddie Brock, who has an equally shared hatred for Peter Parker because he feels like Peter Parker cost him his job at the Daily Bugle, and now he can't make ends meet. This is a different story. In this story, Eddie Brock and Peter Parker are friends already. And Eddie Brock seems to have graduated from high school, but Peter is still in high school. Both of their parents are scientists that work together, and together they made a suit that is supposed to help cure cancer. But the suit is still just like the alien symbiote suit from the other universes. I don't understand how that's supposed to work. If you have cancer, do you have to bond with the suit and then the suit will kill the cancer while taking you over? Obviously, this suit needs way more experimentation. But because the two dads needed funding, they signed over their experiment to Trask Industries, who tried to pervert the whole situation. The dads disappeared through some weird explanation that probably is in the comic books. Spider-Man decides to steal the symbiote suit, feels like it's starting to take control over him, so he gets rid of it. For some reason, he puts it right back in the same place he got it from, even though he knew it was dangerous. Then his friend Eddie Brock, without any spider powers whatsoever, infiltrates the same exact building, takes the same symbiote suit, and bonds with it, and starts going all Hulk smash, mad, crazy, breaking stuff, breaking backs. You know, berserker rage sort of stuff. Now, the bare bones of this game are nothing to really be excited about. The game basically has a story mode, and it's in an open world area. The open world area is run by what they call city goals. Now, everything that you can do in the open world, which is racing, beating up thugs that just seem to be sitting there doing nothing, actual events where you come in as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and save people, and finding secret tokens are all things that you can do to forward the story. You're required to get a certain amount of all four of these things so you can move forward. And the game developers knew that these things were stupid and lame and boring, which is why they didn't require you to do too much of any of them in order to move forward in the story. Also, another gripe that I have is that because Spider-Man is a teenager, he really doesn't know anything beyond New York and Queens. So unlike the game Spider-Man 2, which you have to compare it to, Spider-Man doesn't have as vast an area to traverse. Also, he only really goes from his house to the Daily Bugle where he works, back to his house again. Maybe every now and then he goes to his school, right? Now, because this is Ultimate Spider-Man, and the last two Amazing Spider-Man movies were based on Ultimate Spider-Man, as well as the Avengers movie Spider-Man, you kind of have a feeling of what to expect when you see the story mode. Now, instead of slowing down the action by pausing it using some sort of spider vision, there's really nothing to slow down the action at all on this one. Just good old-fashioned Spider-Man web slinging. I mean, you want to get to another spot as fast as possible. So I don't understand why you would slow time down if it impedes the story movement. I don't understand how that's better. It really confuses me. If we were playing a game like Grand Theft Auto and we're driving around in our cars, but you want to make a really sharp turn, you wouldn't want to have some sort of spidey reflex skill that would help you slow down your driving to a slow crawl so you can make a turn correctly. You just make the turn and be going on with your life. Now, I wish the same could be said about the actual fighting in the game. I mean, this game is just, I've seen button mashes before, but not button mashes that didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, they don't give Spider-Man the ability to block, so they need to give him the ability to reflex dodge, which is done in a whole bunch of other Spider-Man games where he just kind of uses the power of the Matrix to backbend when he's being shot at or something like this. But in this game, the dodge button is really the jump button, and whenever your spider sense goes off, if you push the jump button, you expect to dodge, but really you just jump into the air. It's really janky. The fighting's no better because Spider-Man is a teenager. He doesn't have a lot of legs and arms to swing with. I mean, he has the regular amount. They're just not as long and slender as the Spider-Man we're used to. So he has to rely off of tricks like bouncing off walls and momentum attacks to get his opponents down. But when you combine that with him trying to fight like 8 people in an alley, it just gets really confusing. You don't have a lot of all-out attacks or keep away from me attacks. It's just a bunch of punches and kicks. And the only upgrades you have for attacks are basically you get one more attack in a chain of attacks, which you don't really need. Also, on top of that, all your enemies can block whenever they feel like it. You don't even have a block button. That's just your enemies, your normal vanilla enemies shouldn't have more powers at hand than you do. Sometimes in these battle tours where you go and fight a whole hordes of enemies all over the city, you get to the end and your bad guy, like one of the bad guys has like a flamethrower or something. And how are you supposed to dodge a stupid flamethrower in the middle of an attack? You can lose like half your energy if you get caught in one of those flamethrower streams. Which is totally understandable, but there needs to be more skill involved in dealing with the flamethrowers. Also, Spider-Man's attacks are horrible. I mean, they have almost no power at all. He's a teenager with super spider abilities. It still takes him like 8 hits to knock out a bad guy. And then you can't really kill him or knock him out permanently, so you have to cover him with webbing. When you shoot them with webbing, they only stay webbed up for about 2 seconds. The fighting in this game is absolutely not fun. And the bosses are nothing but a big hodgepodge of you jumping around. Since you don't have any dodge button, you jump around like a maniac. And guess what? The bosses, they move around crazy too. So basically it's you and the boss jumping around at the same time, trying not to hit each other and not having any really good homing attacks. Now, Spider-Man kind of has a homing attack like Sonic the Hedgehog, and you'll primarily be doing this. And Venom, when he strikes, you can use tentacles because they have a really long reach. But the only villain that doesn't jump all over the place is the Green Goblin. Every single one of them moves everywhere. If you use your target lock to lock on the bosses, you're gonna have a lot of camera issues. I mean, the camera's gonna be swooping around everywhere. I mean, it's bad enough if you're standing still and the bad guy's going all over the place, but you're jumping around and moving at the same time as them, so the camera just goes ape nuts. Now, on top of that, because the story is not very long at all, the boss fights are excruciatingly long. And every time you hit a bad guy, you get like one little nick of energy taken off. You don't really get more strength by doing anything other than progressing in the story mode, which is something that I don't really like. It just seems like that was their way to try and pad the game, you know? By making the boss fights so cheesy and epic. But really, they weren't that special at all, just long. Now, where this game shines, though, is its presentation. The story is fun and light, but almost to the point where I don't understand who the story is for. I mean, it seems like it's for kids. Spider-Man is a teenager. The art style is very childish, you know? In a good way. Very comic book-like. But every now and then Spider-Man kicks a genitalia joke and lends into the humor, but it's just kind of awkward. Also, Ultimate Spider-Man, not the one in the movies, but the comic book one, is by far my favorite Spider-Man. Whereas the other Spider-Men have this geeky, aw shucks, it's okay to fail attitude going on, this Spider-Man has some sort of a confident swag going on. You know, kind of like an old dude that checks into work all the time every day, and he's okay with it. Just makes the best out of his life. Whereas the original Spider-Man would have something bad happen to him as a result of somebody else and not get any credit for anything, and then say something maybe under his breath. This Spider-Man will look you straight in the face and be like, well, if it's like that, then save yourself and leave me out of it. I mean, with that, his game accelerated when it came to Mary Jane. I mean, he's already kicking it with her in high school. She already knew he was Spider-Man. He had her sewing up his outfits for her. I mean, I don't know where they lost that feel in the Amazing Spider-Man movies 1 and 2, but if they kept the lighthearted fun of this Spider-Man, they probably would have had something everybody loved. Although, of course, this is the only Spider-Man that had a long-lasting comic book series that they killed off, so don't get too attached to him. But all in all, it's still a game that you'll want to check out. It's a pretty short game. It doesn't really overstay its welcome. The story mode is pretty decent. It's actually really fun watching the cutscenes. They're animated very well. Just do yourself a favor and don't try to achieve anything more than that. Okay, that's all I got, so I'll see you guys on the next Dad's Free Time game reviews. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Swoop-de-whoop, Free Mac Martin. Peace.